Good morning and welcome to the Business Standard Morning Show. I'm Nazia Iqbal. Let's take a look at the stories for the day. Tata Group stocks have been on a dream run this year, and for a change, the biggest group company TCS has lagged the market. The combined market cap of all listed Tata companies, excluding TCS, has shot up by 102% this year. This report examines how the fortunes of the Tata Group companies are turning around under Chairman N. Chandrasekaran.
The stock market underperformance of Tata stocks, excluding TCS, cast a long shadow on the group's overall performance. But the past year and a half have been different. The group stocks have staged an astounding rally helped by several factors, including India's bull market. Because of this, Tata Consultancy Services' contribution to the group's market cap declined to a decadal low of 58.2% as of October 14. The IT exporter had accounted for 67% of the group market cap in December 2020 and a record 75% at the end of March 2020. On October 21st, rating agency S&P upgraded the global ratings for Tata Steel, Tata Motors and its subsidiary Jaguar Land Rover with a stable outlook. It also removed the companies from Credit Watch. S&P's action follows a reassessment of influence and potential for extraordinary financial support from holding company Tata Sons to group entities. Listed Tata companies at present have a combined market cap of 23 trillion rupees compared with 9.19 trillion rupees in March 2020. The entire group's market cap is up 49% year to date. Group stocks like Tata Elxsi, Tata Power, Tata Motors, Tata Chemicals and Tata Steel have notched gains in high triple digits since their lows of March and April 2020. The best performer is design and technology services firm Tata Elxsi with a 1000% gain. Tata Power has rallied 740%, whereas Tata Motors and Tata Chemicals have gained 680 and 390% respectively. Tata Communications too has been among top performers, rising 565% since March last year. Riding a commodity rally, Tata Steel reduced its debt to the tune of Rs 28,000 crore in FY21 to 88,500 crore rupees. Its stock has gained 450% since its low 1.5 years ago. Titan Company's market value crossed the Rs 2 trillion milestone early this month. Nearly 5 years after N. Chandrasekaran took charge as the chairman of Tata Sons, a number of reforms initiated by him finally seem to be bearing fruit. He focused on simplification of the group structure and driving synergies between its companies. For instance, Tata Motors, Tata Power and Tata Chemicals have come together to build an electric vehicle ecosystem in India. Tata Chemicals has announced plans to manufacture lithium-ion batteries, while Tata Power is setting up a nationwide network of EV charging stations. Tata Motors has emerged as the top seller of EV cars in the country, and recently it sold a $1 billion stake in its EV business to TPG Group at an overall valuation of around $9 billion.
In 2019, the group consolidated its food and beverage businesses under the umbrella of Tata Consumer Products, transforming the latter into an FMCG giant and putting it on a new growth trajectory.
On the digital front, the group is getting ready to launch its super app Tata Neu. Even as the Tata Group overcomes legacy issues and becomes future ready, its dependence on TCS for profitability may not come down much more anytime soon. In the last 5 years, dividend and share buybacks by TCS have accounted for nearly 94% of all Tata Sons earnings. TCS is likely to remain the biggest source of dividend for Tata Sons for a considerable duration. But for now, it seems the Tata Group is gearing itself up to fire on multiple cylinders and not ride on the success of TCS alone.
For the quarter ended September 2021, the demand for gold in India jumped 47% year-on-year to 139.1 tons, compared with 94.6 tons in the year-ago period, and higher than the 123.9 tons recorded in the September 2019 quarter. How will the year 2022 prove for gold? Is it a good time to buy? Let's find out.
Let me start by asking you this. Is there a good time to buy gold for the long term? Or should one just buy and hold irrespective of the levels?
Well, this is, as I said, gold is something to be accumulated, and it's also passed on over generations. And we have seen gold have actually gone up along with inflation and the depreciation in various currencies. It's not just related to the Indian rupee. We're talking about the global currencies. If you really take India-specific data, since 1980 till now, gold has actually gone up by an average of 14.3% CAGR. Okay. Against that, the inflation has not been that high. So gold has always performed in the long run. So, and obviously what we have seen in a very recent study is, in the short run, prices, monsoon, inflation affect the demand. In the long term, income affects demand. Okay, so what we have seen is a 1% increase in income leads to a 0.9% increase in demand long term.
Okay.
A 1% increase in inflation leads to a 2.6% increase in demand in the short term. So short-term factors vary from the long-term factors. So question here is it a good time to buy? Now, obviously, any time is good to buy as long as you have a long-term view on gold.
So a number of experts have warned us against the possible rise in inflation over the next few months. In fact, a recent WGC report indicated investors use gold as a hedge against inflation. Can this time be different as there are more lucrative investment avenues available in terms of demand?
Actually, inflation in the short run drives demand in the short run. There is no doubt about it. In the long term, income has an overwhelming influence on gold demand. So in the short run, inflation does drive demand. A 1% rise in inflation leads to a 2.6% rise in the demand. So given the fact that there is a concern about inflation, clearly this will be always a good time to diversify your portfolio with some gold. And also given what is happening in other asset classes, equities and all, which have run up very, very fast. But you know, there are experts who say that look, they have run up too fast, too soon, etc. It will be good to have gold to diversify your portfolio.
Can investors fancy for cryptos than the overall gold demand then?
Well, you see, every asset class has a certain risks and certain benefits. Okay, and now cryptocurrencies are a new asset classes. They have obviously they have a lot of marketing that's going on around them, and they are digital, so they do attract a certain set of investors. There's no doubt about it, but still they are volatile. There is nothing backing cryptos, so in a sense, therefore, they are a different kind of a risk. Now, the thing about gold is it is always an asset class which is fully backed. There is no counterparty risk, where it actually, as part of a portfolio, it plays a very, very different role. When it is almost like an insurance. When everything else doesn't work, gold is going to work. So when you take on a risk asset like crypto, you got to add more gold to your portfolio. So it is not like one versus the other. Actually, one leads to more demand for gold. That's the way it is.
But why would investors flock to gold when the prices have actually gone down?
Yeah, that is again the long-term versus the short-term view that we have to take. Gold has been in existence for centuries. We're just seeing crypto rise, and crypto still does not have any. The regulatory framework is not known, particularly in India, where we stand about this. And as I said, there are lots of awareness issues about crypto. It's not backed by anything. Central banks don't hold crypto, whereas central banks hold gold as part of the reserves. It has always been a global currency, So you can't compare the short-term dynamics of crypto with gold. Gold is a long-term asset class. So that is the reason why investors should hold certain gold as part of the portfolio.
How do you see the price trends playing out over the next 1 year or so, given the fact that US Federal Reserve and the other global central banks as well may tweak their monetary policy?
Well, we don't forecast price, but given what is happening in the market, yeah, there are various factors at play. Certainly, the biggest one is the strength of dollar, the US interest rates, and we have seen that even in the ETF outflows during this quarter. But that's not the only factor. What happens essentially is when you find the interest rates go up, stronger dollar having a softening effect on price, what you see is that the explicit investment flows, like ETFs, they tend to become, they probably withdraw. But the consumer demand increases. The jewelry markets, bars and coins, they increase because they find it a good price, an attractive price, because the prices are softened to go and buy physical gold. And that is the beauty of gold. These two things actually counteract with each other at various points in time and bring about a balance in the gold market. So yes, if tomorrow the prices soften because of the US interest rates or any other geopolitical factor, then the consumer markets will come in a very big way. Because don't forget, the last 2-3 years, the consumer markets have faced the brunt of the high price.
So in the Indian context also, you see the investment demand for gold going up?
Yes, we do think. One thing about the Indian market is jewelry itself is an explicit investment.
Sure.
That is why you donate, you gift it during weddings, and it's part of the wealth transfer. So while it is in jewelry form, when you look at jewelry of 200 grams and 300 grams on a person, which you wear for a single occasion, they are more of an investment intent than pure jewelry everyday use. So we do expect that investment demand will grow. And again, cultural reason and economic reason. And India's per capita is still very low. And as incomes grow, as our study shows, certainly the long-term demand for gold will rise, because as more and more families come into the savings level, the first asset class they would like to save will be gold.
From 139 tons in September quarter, where do you see the gold demand going over the next 1 year or so? Where will we be in September 2022 quarter?
See, barring any further interruptions, because we can't speak about those, barring any further interruptions, if you are to extrapolate from where we stand, assuming that all the good factors are going to be at play, the prices will be soft like what we are seeing now, neither not too much volatile, because too much volatility also affects consumers. Even if it drops, consumers will stay back and say, will it drop further? Let me not buy now. So, but a range-bound price is always very good for the consumers. If this continues, what we would see is, given the fact that we're all coming out of lockdown, there's a lot of money that has been saved, at least by the families who can afford it. That's a big chunk. I think we will see one of the best years for gold.
The action has shifted to the primary markets now, with a number of initial public offerings vying for investors' money. One of the most awaited offers, that of e-commerce player Nykaa, will open for subscription today. Is it worth your money? And what factors are likely to keep traders and investors busy today? Let's find out in our next report.
The ongoing corporate results season is expected to keep the secondary markets volatile today. Around 150 companies, including Bajaj Finserv, Cartrade Tech, DLF, Interglobe Aviation, JK Tyre, Marico, NTPC, Tata Power, SBI Card and Westlife Development are slated to report their September quarter results on Thursday. That apart, the much-awaited 5,320 crore rupee IPO of Nykaa will open for subscription in a price band of 1,085 and 1,125 per share. While most analysts recommend subscribing to the issue from a long-term perspective, they do caution against the valuation and online segment that the company operates in. Further, investors will also keenly follow news flow from around 2 other IPO-bound companies. The first is Policy Bazaar. SoftBank has said it will sell around 20% of its total stake in the fintech company during its share sale. The IPO, which will open on November 1, consists of a fresh issue of 3,750 crore along with an offer for sale for 1,960 crore by existing promoters and shareholders. The company said it would use around 1,500 crores of the net proceeds to fund marketing initiatives over the next 3 years. Further, it intends to use 375 crore rupees to expand the consumer base, including offline presence. Rupees 600 crores will go for strategic acquisitions and investments, and rupees 375 crore for expanding presence outside India. Meanwhile, another IPO-bound company, Paytm, has raised its IPO size to 18,300 crore rupees from the earlier 16,600 crore rupees. Separately, Swiss Re will buy a 23% stake on a fully diluted basis in Paytm's associate firm, Paytm Insurtech Private Limited, for about 920 crore rupees. Coming back to the secondary market and the likely action today, on the global front, while the Bank of Japan's interest rate decision will be keenly watched by investors, fund flow activity by FIIs and crude oil prices are other factors that are likely to impact sentiment. The monthly expiry of futures and option contracts for the October series is also likely to weigh in. Yesterday, fag and selling had dragged the benchmark BSE Sensex 207 points lower than the previous close to 61,143, while the Nifty had settled at 18,210, down 57 points.
There's a lot of noise at the moment about the connected ecosystem, including connected homes, connected offices, connected cars, and connected manufacturing facilities. The connected ecosystem is propelled by what is called the Internet of Things, commonly called IoT. But what is the Internet of Things and how does it work? Let's find the answers here. Nowadays, we hear a lot about connected ecosystem. We read about everything connected, from connected homes to connected offices, connected cars, and even connected manufacturing facilities. These are enabled by an interconnection through Internet of Things, or IoT. But what is IoT? Let's understand. In layman's terms, the Internet of Things is a network of internet-connected devices linked together to work in tandem. It enables a connected ecosystem and automation. For example, a smart bulb and a smart speaker linked together are connected to the Internet. Here, the smart speaker can take voice commands to switch on or switch off the smart bulb. In silos, the smart bulb and the smart speaker are just other Internet-enabled devices with limited benefits of interconnection. But when linked together, they form a network where both the devices form a connected ecosystem. By combining the data of these connected devices with automated systems, it is possible to gather information to create an action. Therefore, the Internet of Things not just lets you control one device from another, but also enables automation. There are several benefits of deploying the Internet of Things, and the connected ecosystem is just one of them. Basically, Internet of Things was devised to make the most from Internet-enabled devices for human lives to become easier. It integrates data from connected devices. When Internet-connected devices are linked together, they form a network. This network integrates the data from various connected devices and applies analytics. Therefore, you can interact with one device through another even when you're miles away. For example, you can turn on or off your room air conditioner from your office through your smartphone using just the voice command. Moreover, you can automate this task if you have a fixed home and office schedule. That's all we have for you today. We will be back tomorrow with more news and analysis in our next episode. Stay tuned. Thank you for watching.
If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views, and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram, and LinkedIn.